Hi everyone, this video is going to do a thing for how to save data going between levels, and if you wanted to save it to a file so that you could, when you start up the game, have it already have pre-saved data. This is how you would go about doing that. And there's more in-depth ways, but this is a fairly simple way to do it. And just to show you the example, what I mean is, this is a simple level. I collect items, and now I have a portal that will take me to another level, and you'll see when I do that, my 2 went back to 0, right? So I lost any of the data that I had saved. So what you want to do is, the first thing is we're going to create a new blueprint class, and so we're going to go into the folder that we have, and I'm going to go and find a blueprint class, and what we want is save game. And save game is basically just a blueprint situation that will let us save data off and write it to a file and read it from a file. That's what the main gist of it is. So I'm just going to call it save data, and I'll double click to edit it, right? You'll see it comes up, and the first thing we're going to need to do is create a variable that we're going to store data, right? So if I had a bunch of things, like if I had a health bar and, different other things, like if I had lives or whatever, I would have all these variables for that. The only thing I have currently, right, is the collect count. I'm going to call it save collect count. And it's not a Boolean, so I need to make sure it is an integer. And so you can see here I have my integer, and you can hit compile and save, make sure everything's saved off. Now that we have our variable in here, and this is going to be our thing that keeps it going from level to level and like write to the file and come back, but we need functions to do that, and where we're going to put those functions and get the data that we're going to save is from wherever that data is stored. And if you remember right, this is it's going to be in blueprints for the third person character for what we did, right? We did in here the variable that's the begin play. There's more. You can see here we have our collect count. So what we want to do now is create 2 functions that are going to basically be the things that go, and one is going to save the data and one's going to load the data. So we're going to name them appropriately. So we're going to hit the add for the blueprint section, and we're going to see that we have a function here. Like, right, if I don't have that, I have interfaces, macros, variables, camera, but I don't have functions. So just hitting the add and hitting functions, you'll see we'll add a function section in here. And I'm just going to call it fSaveData. And then I'm going to add another one that's fLoadData. We'll start off with the save data. We'll double click it to go in and edit it. So you can see up here we're on save data. And what I'm going to just do is zoom in a little bit just so we can read it better. So the first thing you need to do with this is you need to check to see if there is a game slot available. So from our save game data, we're going to click from that, and we're going to, does save game exist? So we're checking to see if there's been data out there stored for the save game data. With this does save game exist, you'll see there's a couple things. One of them is the slot name. That is going to be what the file name is called for your thing. There's ways you can handle this. We can make a variable that stores this, which is probably the best way, but what I'm just going to be doing for this is I'm going to type in save1. And so I'm just going to name it save1 so that it's easy to do. And then what comes out of it, right, you'll see over here it's a Boolean. That means it's either true, false. This is a return from doing this function of does save game data exist. And it's going to give us a true, false, yes it exists, or no it doesn't exist, right? So we're going to come out from that and do a branch. And so, right, that gives us the things to do for true and false. And so for true, if the saved game data exists, then we just need to load the data. Load game from the slot. And again, that's the same one as here, so save one. And then if it's false, we need to create it. And we're going to use the blueprint class that we just made, which is the save data. So now we have our two values here, right? So basically, if the game does exist, we're going to do these. And then if it doesn't, if it does exist, we're going to load it. If it doesn't exist, we're going to save it and create one. Now what we need to do is send this data to the BP save data, right? Because this is in third person, so we need to send it there. So how we're going to do this is we're first going to create a reference to it. So we're going to promote it to variable, and that just puts it over here as one of the variables. So this is going to be a save reference. Don't know why. And you'll see it's actually a save game type of, right, if I made this bigger, you can see it's a save game type, save game. And then I could do the same on, well, I could just pull that one out for get save reference, or actually set save reference. Set. And do it same here. And so we're going to take these two and we're going to cast them to the BP save data, right? Because we want to send the data back there, like, right, the data, we're currently in the third person, so we want to send the data back to the save game data, and we can take both of those saved variables and go there. We can only put one object. You'll see that it won't let me put both objects. So we'll do the bottom one. And once this is set, we can then set the variable, right, that we have the save collect count, right? We should be able to get that from the BP save data. And we should be able to find save collect count. And we're going to set that variable because we want to set it to what we currently have in our collect count. So we're going to get the collect count and we're going to save this data in here. So basically, and make sure we connect it. This is basically saying, go in and save the data that we have in our current collect count into the save data on the variable. And then we actually want to save it. Save game to slot, right? And so this slot, right, is the save one that we did, right? We can come back here and look, save one to make sure we have it the same. And then this is going to be the save reference. So we're going to get save reference and we're going to attach that to the save game object. So now that we have that saved, we should be able to hit it, and now that we have that one done, we need to go do the load data. So it's going to be very similar that if the load data exists, then we're going to load it, and if it doesn't, we're not going to do anything. So again, does save game exist? And right, this is save one. And if it does, we want to do something, so we're going to do branch again. If if I typed it right, branch. There we go. And right, so we're making sure that this Boolean is connected. And if it's true that it did load the data, then we need to load the game data. So load game from slot, right? And that's save one. And then we're going to cast that to the BP save data. Now that we've cast it to the save data, we can now, right, we're trying to load the data, so we're going to update the collect count, right? We're going to set the collect count, and we want to set it to the data from here, which is the save collect count. So we're going to get save collect count from here, from that, and store it in here and connect that. Now we need to compile, make sure it compiles and save. And now we need to test it. We need to see if it works. And to do that, what we're going to do is I'm in third person, and I'm going to go back to my event graph, because that has where like begin play is. If you wanted to, right, we could have it be in here where I'll have it go in, and as soon as we begin play, that it's going to do the load data, right? And so that basically should say, like, if the data exists, then it's going to go and load it so that we have it when the game starts over, right? And we also need to save the data. And so to save the data, what we'll want to do is at some other point, trigger something that would do the save. So we could have it be part of something that it's doing, or in this case, what I'm going to do is we can make it have a key press just so we could easily test it. So what I'm going to do is type key pressed or key event, and then you can see that there's all these options for it. So I'm just going to go find S as in Sam, right? Because I'm saving. And then if the key is pressed, I'm going to type in F save and get the function for the save data. And just to see if it happens, I'm going to print it to the screen, print string to the screen and saying saving. And with this one, right, we loaded it here, so I'm going to also put print just so we can see if it happened. And we're going to say loading. And we'll save it and compile it. And then now for the test, we're going to hit play. And you can see in the top left it said loading, but it had nothing to load. So I'm going to have data that it's going to save. I'm going to collect 2. So now you can see I have 2 lightning bolts. And I'm going to hit S for saving. And you can see on the top left it says saving. I'm going to stop the game and play again. And you'll see that it's loading, and I still have 2 lightning bolts, right? Now, the lightning bolts still came back in my thing, so you might need, if you wanted to like record like where your items were placed and which ones disappeared, you would need to do that and have that kind of, have all that stuff be saved and but you can kind of just see here, right, with our values and how many bolts we collected, and that we could save it going between levels. And now it's saved going between my different levels. I keep my 2 every time I do that now. So right, and so I hit 3, and I'm not going to hit save, but I'm going to go back here to this other level, and now I'm back to 2, right? So I have to hit save. So you could have a trigger like you had these triggers where, you know, you hit save, or you could have to manually hit save for it to keep it. But that's how to save data between levels, and also for, right, when I hit play again, I have 3 lightning bolts now.